Hello everybody, thanks for joining me today on the Moneybag 73 channel. I'd like to ask you a couple questions. Why is it that you think that 13 years of education doesn't grant us one class on money creation? Or why that people with a good education, even a good college education, and a secure job are feeling financially insecure these days? Well, I'd like to give you some insight into why I believe that these things are happening. It has to do with the lack of education and the type of educational system that we have. Now, I think it is so important that we teach our children about money, because we're not being taught the most important things that we need to learn. Money is such an important thing in economics that affects all of us. Money is the root of all evil. Well, the problem's not with the money. It's with the greed. That's how I think that phrase comes from. But we all have to learn how to deal with money, or we're going to have big problems. And there's a hidden agenda that's working against us. And if we're not educating our children and giving them the tools that they need, they're going to have a difficult time. Now, I wasn't given those tools necessarily. I found them on my own because of my interest in this subject. But I didn't have this interest in high school or college. I thought economics was boring in college. It was Keynesian economics I was being taught. It was a bunch of formulas, and I read the stuff the economists were writing. It was so boring. Once I started studying the Austrian school of economics, I learned a new passion in myself, and I've just been so passionate about it ever since. I want to learn more and more, trying to teach people what I'm learning, and teaching our children is so important. I'd like to show you this book by Peter Schiff and Andrew Schiff. There was an original book that came out in 1979 written by Erwin Schiff, their father, and they redid it. This book does a great job of giving a little three people on an island type situation, and how they grow an economy and then how it crashes. And this is a simple story that correlates to the United States of America and what's happening, but it gives this, probably you need to be at least 10 years old and up for this. I read half of it to my son. He enjoyed it. Got a little complicated for him, so I kind of let up on it. I'm going to require him to read this at some point, because it does a good job of explaining how economics works. There's three guys, and they each have to get a fish every day. And one guy, he takes a risk of not fishing one day, and they laugh at him, and he makes a net. And then he goes with the net, and he starts getting a lot more fish than the other guys, and they want to borrow the net. He says, well, he doesn't want to loan the net. They may break it. So then he says, I'll loan you a fish, so you don't have to go fish. You can try and make your own net. But anyway, great story. Highly recommend this book. Help me understand certain things. Economics is not a real simple thing, and for having a book like this, it makes it seem simple. One other book is entitled "The Scary Story of the Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad Box of Free Money." It's an Austrian school of economics business cycle, Austrian business cycle theory book. It's like 30 pages. I can't find it, or I'd show it to you. But it does a good job of showing what happens when the central bank gets involved and expands the money. What happens when you increase the amount of money that you have for the limited amount of goods to purchase them with. So I recommend those two books for your children to read. And I also wanted to say something here about where I think this comes from, about what we're not being taught in schools. This comes from G. Edward Griffin. He wrote The Creature from Jekyll Island, which is where the bankers met, where they drew up the Federal Reserve Act that started the Federal Reserve in 1913. This book talks about the Rockefeller's General Education Board, which was founded in 1903. This is what Griffin had to say. The purposes of the foundation of the General Board of Education was to use the power of money not to raise the level of education in America, as was widely believed at the time, but to influence the direction of that education. The object was to use the classroom to teach attitudes that encourage people to be passive and submissive to their rulers. The goal was and is to create citizens who were educated enough to be productive in the workforce under supervision, but not enough to question authority or to rise above their class. True education was to be restricted to the sons and daughters of the elite. For the rest, it would be better to produce skilled workers with no particular aspirations other than to enjoy life. So that's pretty interesting. You know, I'm thinking, I believe that has a lot to do with it. I know it sounds kind of conspiratorial or whatever, but you know, there's conspiracies everywhere. But that, you know, that led me to do a little research. I came up with this, which is even more interesting. Listen to what John Taylor Gatto had to say, the author of Weapons of Mass Instruction and Dumbing Us Down. He says that the school system was not designed to teach children to think for themselves. Our current school system is based on a Prussian model that was developed to just the opposite, to teach children to obey orders and to do as they're told. Compliant and obedient students become good worker bees, or good little soldiers, who are content to work for the rich. Mr. Gatto was named New York City Teacher of the Year 3 times, and he was named New York State Teacher of the Year once. And in an op-ed piece in Wall Street Journal in 1991, he said he was done with teaching. He couldn't harm the children any longer with the current system, the educational system that we have. Interesting guy. The history of how the education system got started, how the United States used to be, you know, one of the smartest nations before we got onto the current system, which is dumbing everybody down. They're not made to think for themselves. Interesting guy. If you Google John Taylor Gatto, that's Gatto, and click videos, he's got tons of stuff, tons of lectures, tons of stuff. Really interesting. I'll be checking out some more of that myself. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring you today. I wanted you to think about the education that your children are receiving as far as money's concerned. And since the proof's in the pudding, I thought that I'd ask my children a couple questions and see how I'm doing myself in that regard. So here we go. Okay, keep in mind, everybody, this is not scripted. I'm just coming up to the kids, ask them a few questions. Hey, what's this, honey? What's this, honey?
Hold on. Money.
Money. You like that money? What's this?
Paper money.
Paper money. Right. Well, at least you made a distinction there between money and paper money.
Hold on.
Hey, look, it's a junior economist. What are you reading, junior economist? Goosebumps, Horrorland. It's a good book.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I wanted to ask you a couple questions real quick. I wanted to ask you what this was.
Oh, that's money. That's gold. I mean gold and silver.
Gold and silver are money?
Yeah.
Okay, here, you can have the money. And this here?
Garbage. Okay, if we were having a fire right now, I'd throw this in the fire and watch it burn because it's worth nothing.
That's true. But unfortunately, we have to use it to buy things, right?
Yes.
So we don't burn it up. Okay, so this is now what happens when the Federal Reserve prints a whole bunch of this?
And
Do they make it
down in value?
Correct. It goes down in value because you got a whole lot more dollars available to everybody to buy the same amount of stuff. So and what's been happening to this over the last 100 years, this paper money?
Then going down.
Down and down and down. And what's happening to real money lately? Which way are they going?
Up and up and up.
Correct. Do you know anything about inflation?
Yes.
What does that mean, inflation?
That means
in regards to money. What does it have to do with money?
The dollar's inflating. Mommy.
Correct.
And it means that.
That's right. They're inflating the dollar.
Yeah, and it means that it's making it go down. They're making a lot more money.
And they're making it go down in the value, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Federal Reserve, do you know anything about them?
Yes. They make me think about the government.
They're connected to the government, right? But they're also what?
The paper printers, the garbage printers.
Yeah, that's what they are. Thank you, Junior Economist.
Okay. Bye.